Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, what has tourism ever done for Jersey? Will you please welcome the non-executive chairman of Visit Jersey, Mr. Kevin Keane.
I really do believe that the sector's been misunderstood and undervalued for a long time, and sometimes by key decision makers. It's been described as low value because the GVA for the sectors most associated with tourism, which is hotels, restaurants and bars, is smaller than financial services. Not a surprise there, but it's about 8% of the economy versus, I think, about 60% of the economy for financial services. And the other, I think, more controversial thing is that the sector's been blamed for population growth. Because like agriculture, we sometimes need to recruit workers from outside of the island, and of course many of them are seasonal anyway. These perceptions, and probably more importantly, the policies that have followed them, have created huge problems for a sector that I think is very important to Jersey. A sector that creates much more value than a simplistic interpretation of GVA statistics would have you believe. But personally, I go on and on about this GVA thing, and anybody who knows me will know that I do tend to go on and on about it. But I fundamentally disagree with it as a society that values people on what their salaries are. You know, we have to live with what the market puts on the value of people in terms of salaries and all that. But I think we need to take that with great care, because very often the market gets it completely wrong. So I just want to point out some of the limitations as I see it from the use of GVA for real serious policy formation. GVA only measures things that are recorded in money. It's the first thing to remember. I think it was developed in the 1600s and improved in 1934, but the chap who produced it said, be careful about how you use it. As I say, it's only deals with things that are recorded in money. So volunteering, parental care, these things aren't counted. Sale of products harmful to the environment, to our health, these are. 50 years ago, Robert Kennedy said that GDP measures everything except that which makes life worthwhile. GVA measures what's happened, not what's going to happen. So it doesn't measure the potential of a sector. Would Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg have tried to start their business in Jersey? Because their GVA at the beginning of their business life would have been pretty low. And I think often in Jersey we have seen, I think we've probably missed lots and lots of opportunities because we've sort of said, if we don't get a GVA that's the same as financial services and we get it quick, we don't want it. So that's another problem with GVA. Another thing is that GVA doesn't place any value on the diversity of our economy or the interrelationships. 50 years ago, tourism was the top dog in the economy. Long before that was shipbuilding, then farming, now finance. What will the biggest sector be in 50 years' time? Nobody knows. The only thing we know is that the world's constantly changing. Jersey needs to be flexible, be prepared to take a few risks, and like any prudent investor, we should not keep all our economic eggs in one basket. As in all things, and recognised today, diversity is important. But as I said at the beginning, I want to convince you that we need a much more intelligent approach to judging the contribution of tourism and the visitor economy to the welfare of our island. Here's a few numbers. 62% of the 2.3 million passengers that go through the airport and harbour in 2018 were visitors, most of them coming for leisure. Locals benefit from this, a greater choice of travel options and someone else contributing to the cost of our ports. In 2018, visitors spent $268 million in Jersey, supporting many local businesses, restaurants, our high street, food producers, buses, coaches, taxis and hotels. The list goes on. Locals benefit because the visitor spend supports more choice for us all. Visitors paid around £13 million worth of GST last year. That's 14% of the 93 million that was raised. Without visitors, the rate would need to probably go from 5% to 6%. So locals benefit from the taxes paid by visitors that support our public services. Important charities like Jersey Heritage and Jersey Zoo benefit from the spending of visitors when they attend their attractions. Without tourists, these charities might not be able to operate in Jersey or will potentially need support from taxpayers. Locals benefit from the access to these amazing attractions and quite a few others. And tourism is highly synergistic to our other key industries, finance and digital. Where do they send their clients? What do their clients eat? We need a healthy hospitality sector. We all benefit from that. Now to the matter of the sector's impact on population growth. Something that's got a constant hot topic in Jersey. Everybody thinks we've got too many people here. And we certainly got more people than we had in 2001. There were 87,000 people here in 2001. At the end of 2018, there were just shy of 107,000. Almost 20,000 more people. 22% increase. But what's the impact of tourism hospitality on those numbers? Well, in 2001 there were 6,740 jobs in hospitality. In June 2019 there were 6,400, 300 less. And of course there's about 1,000 seasonal jobs included in that. There were also less jobs in retail and agriculture, the other industries that typically get blamed for population growth. So if tourism has not been driving population growth, what has? Well, some people will know I'm a bit of a bean counter and I'm an active user of the stats unit's information, so I kind of dug some of this stuff out and looked at both the census and the labour market reports for those two periods, June 2018 and June 2001. So there were 3,500 more people of retirement age, presumably not working. There were 3,500 more private sector jobs in education and health, a 78% increase. There were over 3,000 more jobs in miscellaneous business activities, 114% more. There were 1,300 extra jobs in financial services. There were 1,200 extra jobs in construction. So in the sectors that seem to get the blame, there are actually less jobs. But in the others, there's no mention, and there are a lot more people. And something that kind of still doesn't make sense to me, so I was going to busily crunching around with the numbers. Interestingly, there seems to be a lot more people in the typical range of in the working career, i.e. after 16 and before 64, that are in the island but are not working. I don't understand. I really don't understand these numbers, but that number's about 10,000. In 2001, it was about 3,000. Why is that? I just don't know. Maybe it's boomers like me, or not like me, retiring. My point is, this population thing is complex, and I really don't think we've had a properly informed debate about population in Jersey. I'm only part way through the 257 pages of the latest Migration Policy Working Group report, but I can tell you it doesn't fill me with much hope that that's going to happen. If we get the policy wrong, we risk real damage to our community and our island. Before you solve a problem, you have to understand it. And just going straight for sectors like tourism, sectors like agriculture, sectors like retail is not a good idea. We really do need to understand that problem. Of course, some staff that come to the island to work in hospitality end up in other sectors. But they only do that because the jobs are available. and the people are good enough to get them. I say good luck to those hard-working people who progress their careers. I know everybody in the sector is always sad to lose them, and the people and the businesses that get them are lucky to have them. Like it or not, we really did immigration to make our island work, and the fact of the matter is, there's not many in this room that could go back very far before they found immigrants among their ancestors. Of course we need to manage our population, but we really need a much more thoughtful measure than what an individual's GVA is to do that effectively. And as I said already, we really need to understand the problem a bit more clearly before we try and fix it. The headline population number includes a lot of people that aren't working. And we can't kick those people out. Recently, I was at an event, and this seems quite an important person I talk about. Well, we really got to improve our GVA and our productivity and all this stuff. And a prominent financial services leader stood up and said, actually, to make the island work, we all need to work together. We all need to recognise the value of all the sectors in the island, because no sector can operate on its own. I was going to say that, but it was much more powerful coming from somebody important. And I really thought it was so helpful that he did. Of course, every business would like to improve their profitability. Those people in business have the necessary objective. They want to make more money. So we're not going to have more people than we actually need. But we want to be able to serve our customers. We want to be able to reduce the stress on the people that already work there. So I don't think it's an unreasonable thing to say, let businesses manage how many people they employ. If we don't want more jobs, we need probably to close businesses down, and that doesn't sound to me like it's going to be a very popular political policy. For tourism, the best way to improve our profitability is to take up the surplus capacity in the sector. The empty hotel rooms, the empty airline seats. There's plenty of them, and that's a great opportunity. In 2018, only 66% of available beds were sold. In fact, there was actually some vacancies in August. The sector's very seasonal. We know there's capacity in air and sea. We just have to persuade people to try Jersey off-season. And when I say off-season, there's lots of bits that are seen as off-season, but they're fantastic places to go. You guys live here, so you'll know what I'm talking about. What May can be like, what September can be like, what October can be like, except last October. But of course, these businesses can't do that if they can't have the staff to serve their customers. Tourism is growing globally, but it's a competitive sector. We have to win those. We can't just actually. I think John said it before. If government passes costs down, prices will have to go up. Well, if you're in a sector that is globally competitive, you can't always do that. We're competing not just in Jersey, but with outside of Jersey. The interesting thing about tourism, to me, and I'm, as you're going to find out if you ask any questions, I'm not the expert. The experts are here. Keith and the team are here. But it seems to me that most people have moved on from accumulating stuff to accumulating experiences, and they put a lot of stay on the annual holiday, the family holiday. I know I do. It's the one thing getting my family together, it would just. So I'll try that. So I haven't broken it. So people want to come on holiday, and they will make sure that they can. But potential visitors to Jersey have lots of choice, so we have to work hard to attract them to come back or to visit Jersey in the first place. It's not easy, and it's never going to be easy. In 2018, UK residents, which is still our biggest market, took 71 million overseas trips. We only welcomed 464,000 residents to Jersey in 2018. So there's still plenty of opportunities in our biggest market, apart from the other markets that are close by. I'm really proud to have been involved with Visit Jersey pretty much more or less from the beginning. I heard John Henwood speak back in 2013. John's here today, and he urged the island to fall back in love with tourism. And typically for John, he didn't just talk about it, he worked to make it happen. We have a great team at Visit Jersey. They're all passionate about the work. Probably the worst kept secret in our industry is that Keith Beecham, the CEO, is retiring next year. So we're going to lose Keith, and he's going to leave some very, very big shoes to fill. So a big job for us is to find someone to follow that. You know, I think we massively underestimated how complicated just getting an organisation like Visit Jersey started from scratch. You know, I don't think Keith quite had to build his own desk, but it wasn't kind of far short of it. So next year there'll be the appropriate recognition of saying goodbye to Keith. But you know what we're focused on now is making sure we find somebody as good as Keith to follow. Of course, then there's the people that work in the sector. We've heard about James escaping early, going into the retired box in this 10,000 box. So there are so many incredible people that work in the sector. I just think it's really great to have Carlos back, for example. You know, these people who work in the sector, I think the Pomodoro without Carlos just wasn't really the same, and it's just great to see him back here. So well done, Carlos. But Carlos is just one of a huge bunch of people that try to make our guest stay a great one. And you know, we sometimes when we kind of look at them and think about them, and as John said, talk about, you know, they must be low skilled and not very productive. I think it's completely insulting. As I say, the market kind of gets these things wrong. You know, hopefully there's no lawyers in the room because they'll all be with their timesheets. But are lawyers any more valuable than teachers? Well, the market says they probably are, but actually we all know in society that that's probably not the case. So I think we have to kind of treat people as people and recognise that the roles that they perform are all important. And, you know, businesses will not have more people than they need to operate their businesses. I think the other thing is, I know it's, even with Christmas arriving, it's still not customary to say anything nice about politicians, but credit where it's due, Senator Lyndon Farnham, who is somebody who really does get tourism and always has, and I don't think Visit Jersey would be around if he had not seen it through. So, you know, there's one politician that I is always in my good books. So, there are holiday destinations that are cheaper. There are places that are sunnier, as and in the last few days I guess we've kind of seen that. But I'm a Jerseyman, and so I'm passionate about the island, but I truly believe if we take this place in the round, there's no better place than Jersey. And I think if you guys could think of somewhere better, you'd probably be there. So I think we're lucky to live in a fantastic island like this. We're close to our key markets. The island's beautiful. It is 99.9% safe. We've seen something awful happen in the last few days, but that is so rare. It's normally the safest place. We have great food. We have incredible history. The list goes on and on. So, following John Cleese and his team is obviously tricky. So, you know, I've tried to explain what visitors have done for Jersey. And I really want to say is what is it that you can do for tourism? Or to government, and in particular those tasked with managing population. Let's have a thorough debate about population policy and understand the challenge we're trying to tackle clearly. I really still don't think we've done that. And please, let's recognise the many limitations of GVA as a measure, not just for our sector, but for all of them. We can only serve our guests if we have the staff to do that. One day, maybe robots will be able to do it, but I'm hoping I won't be around when that happens. We need the people to do the job. To everyone else here who doesn't work in the sector, please do what you can to promote Jersey as a holiday destination. Share our tweets, like our Facebook posts, include jersey.com in your email footers. Tell your friends and families what an amazing island you live in. There's nothing like a personal recommendation. And of course, please carry on welcoming and assisting those people that come to the island for a holiday. Again, I don't think there's anything more memorable than a local, genuinely helping someone out, and you tend to remember that. So let's show what a friendly and helpful bunch we can be. Thank you.
Stick around because there's obviously going to be some questions, and we've got a couple of microphones that we can roam around with, and so if you've got questions, can we just deal with population, you know, for the next 6 hours? Given that it's going up by about 1,000 people per year for the last 20 years, given that there's 300 less people working in this industry, the tourism industry, than there were 20 years ago, but given that population is going to go up, and I think I've heard you say this before, is it inevitable that we're going to have to build upwards, and we're just going to have to own up to the fact that we're going to have more people in Jersey, end of?
Well, my view is that, you know, I think managing the total population is difficult when you've got people living longer and wanting to stay retired in Jersey. So you have to manage the working population, and of course we have to get people to be as efficient as they can and all those things. But business always has that motivation to do it anyway. So I think inevitably the headline population is probably going to go up. That seems to me to be a reality that politicians, you know, I've been nice about Lyndon, but I'll be sort of a bit more challenging about politicians as a generality. They need to get elected. They know it's a concern to the island, and therefore they say we're doing something about it. And if you look at that migration policy, it goes straight in and says, let's stop migration, or let's make it really, really difficult. From what I've seen, there's no analysis of the problem, or how we're going to, or how we might tackle it, or what the consequences of tackling are. It's just goes deep in there and say, low productivity, low skilled, we don't want it. And I really fundamentally disagree with that. And I've been saying for a long time, we need a proper debate about population, an informed debate, so that people can understand what's really happening. As to how you accommodate the people that are here, well, building up seems to be the only answer. My bridge didn't go down too well with people, so I suspect it's building up. But we'll have to make choices, won't we?
I'm surprised there's not a question up there about bridges at the moment, but there will be choices, Ben, you're absolutely right. I'm sure there'll be more questions about population. Just in terms of where we are at the moment, we have migration controls at the moment. We also have the possibility still of Brexit and an election just about to happen in the UK. With those happening, is it a little bit cart before the horse before the cart? Yeah. In terms of trying to decide what our policy should be? Shouldn't we be waiting to see what's going to happen as far as Europe's concerned and our markets?
I guess so, Murray, but we're good at waiting, aren't we? And we're good at talking, yeah.
Someone's made a living out of it, yeah.
So I think you know, why can't we have the analysis? Why can't we have the discussion about how we deal with the ageing population? All those things are non-Brexit compliant, and I think that would add a greater context. And if you look at these numbers, when I kind of tried to get them out, they surprised me. I mean, I don't know what is the miscellaneous business activities, but it's gone up from 2,800 jobs to 6,000. I think I understand why education and health has gone up from 4,500 to 8,000. Probably it's because we've got a much bigger care sector, because we've got a lot more older people. So unless you look at this stuff properly, you're likely to do something that will damage it. Go for hospitality, say you can't have any staff, because therefore ultimately the other sectors will be asking for staff themselves directly, rather than by encouraging them to leave hospitality and others.
Okay, I'm going to deal with a question that was somewhere up the top. Is a drop in the Visit Jersey budget the right signal for government to the hospitality industry, given the state of the market? When that came up, and there were about 6 people that liked that and wanted that to be a popular question, I think it's, I had a discussion at the table with the Minister. I think I'm right in saying, and Minister, you may want to come in here if you want to, but I believe that... No, you don't? Okay, fine. I believe that the government plan is that actually the funding is going back up again, and that it has gone up over several months. It was realigned and it's gone up again, or it's about to go up. Do you want to answer that?
The funding in 2014, against the backdrop of cuts that were introduced, tourism funding was held, and there's a proposal to increase it by $500,000 a year in the government plan.
So what you're saying is it's going to go up by $500,000 a year in the government plan? If the states approve it. So it kind of deals with that question without you having to answer it, which is quite... Oh, all right, John, I knew, somewhere, go for it.
Look, Kevin, I share your views about politicians, most of them, but I also share your view about Lyndon, and I'm not challenging at all his support for the industry, which has always been strong. It's just a shame that most of his colleagues don't support tourism in the way that he does. Now, it's not about £100,000. We were reminiscing on this earlier. Almost exactly 5 years since Visit Jersey Board met for the first time. The first year grant from government was in round numbers 5 million. This year's grant from government is in round numbers about 5 million. In the interim, inflation has whittled away 12.5% of that. So in effect, Visit Jersey is working on £700,000 less than it was 5 years ago. Now that really tells us that the government doesn't really care enough about tourism to invest in it, and that's got to be put right.
There we go. Thank you. You want to cover that? You're very welcome to. You'll go with the microphone there.
Well, as I say, I think, as I said before, and I really mean this, I think Lyndon is one person that does sort of get the industry, but the other topics that I have tried to speak about, this GVA thing and this population thing, I think cloud the judgment of other politicians, and they see the sector as a problem. And I can remember some years ago a very senior civil servant saying, I just don't think we should have a tourism sector. It's a value destroyer. He doesn't work there anymore, fortunately, but I kind of thought, wow, that is a problem.
Okay, I'll take questions from anyone on the floor who's got questions, who wants to ask a question. Please let us know. Some questions up there. Should we fight for a Heathrow connection?
No.
We're looking forward to you speaking soon. Should we? And actually, if not, why not?
Well, I think we're pretty lucky to have the number of connections that we already have. Let's make sure that we hold on to those. I don't know how many is Matt's here, 60 odd or something like that. We're pretty lucky to have them. Of course, more is always better. You know, you've got to fill the seats. You've got to make it. You've got to make it profitable for the airlines as well. And there's still capacity on the existing routes. But yeah, of course, more is better. And the locals benefit. Back to this point I'm trying to make is, where tourism does well, the locals actually benefit as well.
All right. Another question. A question coming from the floor from a former politician, Andrew Lewis.
Thank you. Should I be saying that at all? Every time I stood up in the States, we had a discussion about population. I used to warn my fellow colleagues at the time of depopulation being the biggest risk to Jersey. We've seen it happening in Guernsey recently. That's a big risk. Now, when we had 32,000 beds, I think, in Jersey in the mid-80s, so we had a population then of about 82,000 people, 32,000 people coming here on holiday in August, let's say, probably 3,000 or 4,000 extra seasonal support workers. So we had upwards of 120,000 people in the island during August in the 80s, plus people visiting friends, families, relatives as well. The island didn't sink. It coped really rather well. So I don't really think population debate should be holding back tourism, or indeed any sector in Jersey. Would you agree with that?
No, it's clearly an issue, and I think we all know that it's something that concerns people, and therefore, as I say, we have to have an informed debate. The one thing about visitors to our island is they bring their money and they spend it in our businesses, but they don't need a job and they don't need a house. So, you know, they make our infrastructure work better. So they pay taxes, but actually derive few benefits from them. So, you know, to me it's an absolute no-brainer that we should support the industry.
Questions up on the board. Is the cost of sea travel a deterrent to tourists? It's cheaper to fly. I could go to Paul Luxon, who happens to be sitting here, but I'll actually go to you first, Kevin.
I think I haven't heard that before. I haven't heard that before particularly. I think one of the things is that there are plenty of choices to fly, and it's a convenient way to get here. So I think, you know, Paul and his team are up against serious competition from people flying and hiring a car, and presumably they'll respond to that as they can. So we'll see if Condor's new owners have a different view in due course, no doubt. So.
Paul, do you wish to comment on that, or would you rather go for it?
No, it's not a deterrent because it's not actually factually correct. However, the success of Ports of Jersey and Visit Jersey in terms of the low-cost air model that now comes to Jersey, there's no doubt at all the cost of travel by air has become a lot lower. So the differential between air and sea travel has closed, but the statement's not factually correct. But could I just ask you, Kevin, we worked together a long time ago, you were my first FD, and you told me I wasn't very good at numbers. But we used to talk about population, and it was easy, 90,000 Jersey, 60,000 Guernsey. Over that period of time, the last 20 years, Jersey's population has gone up by, you'll be impressed, Kevin, by 20%, up to about 108,000. Guernsey's population has increased by 5% to 63,000. Would you agree, on the point you were making before, that it's not about putting a cap on population growth for small islands, it's about making sure that you get the right mix of skills to be able to optimise the economic opportunity. But of course we don't want to spoil the beautiful island that you've described as Jersey or indeed Guernsey.
Yeah, but I also go back to this ageing demographic. We've got a lot more people. We've got 25% more people over 65 than we had in 2001. 25%, and we're going to have a lot more. So if you go for this 106,000 and say it must be 100,000, that by definition means you're going to have to either ask people to work longer or reduce the size of the working population. The guys in the industry are always feeling the pain of that, where you hear of restaurants not being able to open, and people not being able to have their takeaways when they want them. So it has a direct impact on the locals as well. So to your point, Paul, I think we need a proper debate rather than this kind of ridiculous, well, let's just go for what seems like it might be popular, and be very disrespectful to the people we need to come here to do the work that needs doing.
Is Airbnb a threat or an opportunity?
Well, I personally think it's an opportunity. I think Visit Jersey would agree with that. One of the things we don't have enough of is self-catering accommodation in the island. I can't quite remember the numbers, of 20% of the accommodation. If we want to bring young families to the island, very often they want self-catering. And also back to this productivity point, if you want to use your assets more productively, if the home's already there and they're empty, why not have a few more visitors in them? That's what used to happen back in the day.
Don't we need a level playing field, though?
Of course we do.
I mean, you've got a lot of hotels in here who are saying, yeah, it's fine. I've got fire regulations, I've got everything else that I've got to cope with.
Yeah.
Someone can let part of their house off, and there's no law in that at the moment. Are we still on the 1948 Jersey
So
law?
we're waiting for that law to get up the
Priority
up
list.
the list. But
We'll see. We'll see when that moves up the list, then, shall we?
I'm sure it will.
All right. Fort Regent was once considered as a possible venue for a casino. Was this a missed opportunity? Says the question, like my name.
Well, I think that's one of the things is that where you have a sector that is just so profitable and you do not want to do anything to impact on it, it means that you avoid decisions that might be controversial. Now, I've got a personal view on gambling, so, but I think we probably did miss the opportunity. Whether it would be still an opportunity now, I don't know. But one thing's for sure, we've got a fantastic asset up there in Fort Regent. What the hell's happened to it? We need to do something. A colleague used to tell me that if he stacked up all the reports on what we should do with Fort Regent, he reckoned he might be able to get to the moon, and I don't think he was particularly exaggerating. So,
Well, you certainly have some steps. Okay, the decline in the average stay of visitors is significant in the amount of time that they stay in the island. Is that significant? Is that important?
oh, of course it's important, but I think it's a fact of life, isn't it? That, you know, we are actually we are becoming a short break destination, and that in a way is a good thing for our sector, but it's something that the guys have to manage for sure. We'd all like the stay to be longer, but people go on more short breaks, they have more holidays. I think we probably all do that in this room, so I think it's a fact that we just have to deal with.
Robert Mackenzie in the far corner. I'm going to have to
Oh,
fight my way over. You'd have a question.
Thanks, Murray. Kevin, without detracting from the fantastic work that Visit Jersey have done in the last 5 years or so, and they have done a terrific job, it could be argued that the reason why Jersey's visitor numbers have increased in the last few years is down to one reason and one reason only, and that's EasyJet, who now operate 9 routes into the island, I think I'm right in saying. I noticed in the draft of the government plan that there has been a submission for quite a good chunk of money for route development. So the argument would go, why not simply give the $4.5 million that Visit Jersey get to the airport to go and give it to the airlines to bring their routes in here? What's your thought on that?
You made yourself popular in this room.
well, I obviously wouldn't agree with that. I think, again, we need to promote the industry. We need to get more visitors. We need to get more awareness to fill up those planes. So I think we're, as I said before, we're all in this together. You know, EasyJet are a brilliant operation, but they're still not flying at full capacity, so it's not all down to them. So I think we should work with ports as we do. We should try and promote and fill up those seats that we've got. But as you say, EasyJet has been a huge assistance and popular with the locals again.
Kevin, I've got one more question, then we're going to run out of time. So forgive me for the other questions that we don't get. We might ask you these questions offline, and we'll put them out to all of those who've attended today. How do we balance affordable housing and population? Local people are leaving as they can't afford to buy locally. Just a small question, then.
Well, again, I kind of make the point that I started with. First thing to do is don't blame this sector. That's the first thing I would say. But clearly it's a challenge. It's probably the biggest challenge that the island faces. How do we solve the problem of the cost of housing? How do ordinary people in ordinary jobs afford a home? It's not a Visit Jersey answer I'm giving here, it's a personal answer, but we talk about climate emergencies. It feels to me like we've still got a housing emergency, and we have to come up with some solutions. You said, Murray, do we need to build higher? I have kind of perhaps provocatively said, well, should we have a bridge or tunnel to France? Because, you know, we've got a limited amount of space on this island and we need a broad cross-section of people to work in it, and the cost of homes is the biggest challenge. And I really believe it impacts on other things, on the stress that people go through, on how much people probably drink. I think housing is probably the central issue for this island. It really is, and there's no easy answer to it.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. It's almost 2:20. In fact, it is 2:20, and that means we're going to run out of time before everyone rushes back to the work they really love to do.
To get productive.
To get productive, of course. Ladies and gentlemen, Kevin Keith.